Hello, and we're back now after a considerable break. Today we're going to talk about ufology within the electric universe. Now, ufology and UFOs are something which is a very contentious source of debate, and certainly it's been around now as a neo-science, if you like, for at least the past 30 years. And in my experience, when I was part of an esoteric foundation organisation, if we ever presented anything in the way of lectures on ufology, people used to come who were by no means interested in other areas of metaphysics or spiritual growth or esotericism, because ufology is such an interesting, or it's such an evocative topic. And I would say in those days the main audience would have been male, because it was thought of as a very technologically high tech or super physical phenomenon. Now, what I want to say, to get over, is the fact that in an electrical universe, ufology cannot have any relevance either to us or to whatever it is behind each UFO or each craft, or whatever you want to call it, itself, without it having a sentient intelligence. And in fact, I read something last month by somebody whose name I've now forgotten, I'm sorry, but he was talking about the fact that he thought ufology or UFOs were in themselves biological entities. And that struck me as relevant, because if we get away from this idea of physicality within the universe, we're left with the question of vibration now, frequency, and compilation of atoms, etc., which must grow more and more subtle the more we leave this dense material plane. So I think that certainly it's not a great leap of imagination for people to envisage sentient beings within the craft, or within whatever comprises the various forms of ufology. And to my certain knowledge, people have talked about seeing things step out of the craft, or having visitations from, or appearances at windows of the craft by certain what look like, creatures or beings. But this idea of a UFO being in itself a sentient being, taking a sentient being or a form of intelligence, taking a shape. And let's face it, the fairly, what's the word? Amorphous, is it? Is that the right word? They morph into different shapes.
Yeah, morphous or morphing.
Yeah, that when they're photographed, I mean, despite the fact that certain people will never accept that there's anything on the photograph which is genuine, but despite that, and everybody studying them will admit that they can be fairly blurred, or they can be fairly gelatinous in as what seems to be their texture. And this to me would seem to intimate that they are some kind of manifestation coming primarily from consciousness and intelligence. And it's not too far away from, in a way, the existence of an angelic realm. So the angelic realms and the question of ufology might actually be linked at some level. Linked into each other.
Oh, yeah.
Linked into each other,
Okay.
Certainly bears out now. We know more and more about physics. We know more and more about the question of particles and atoms and waves. So ufology, as it used to be thought of, is it could be very outmoded in the way that it's in some quarters depicted. It needs to be brought along in the way it's approached or considered or thought of and widened to include more intention or more possibilities and potential behind it. I think it has to be some kind of intelligence at work here, whether you're going to call it physical, non-physical, or whatever. It has to come, whatever it is and whatever the structures are, has to come from some form of basic intelligence.
Or an instrument of intelligence.
Well, yes.
That's built specifically to... Well, the idea is the way we travel at the moment is outdated, cumbersome and very physical. We explore things to propel ourselves.
Yes.
Which is very male way of thinking about things.
It's very left-hand brain.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
But people who have experience in remote viewing, ESP, these people are more closer to the way we would project ourselves across the universe, across the solar systems, purely because of what we call in engineering the electron, the way the electron works. If one switches off somewhere else, it will switch off, and vice versa.
So you don't see then UFOs or certain UFOs as being a biological entity in themselves then?
Well, it depends how far you take that biological. Do you make it?
Yeah.
Do you make the spaceship a complete intelligence?
Well, exactly. The craft might be its own intelligence, which is not exactly the same thing as a biological entity.
Well, that's it.
It means it's devoid of passengers or drivers or whatever you want to.
Yeah.
Not drivers, but pilots and so on.
If we build it to do a certain thing and that's all it knows, then that is okay for me. But if we have an entity that's actually living in space and then we, in a way, sabotage that and then take it for ourselves, that is things that I don't really agree with.
Is that abstruse to the point we're making, though?
Well, no, it's a living entity. There's entities in space who travel across universes in the same way we go to the shops.
Yes.
And that's what I'm saying. If we take
sentient, it's a sentient thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If it's sentient, then we interfere, then that's wrong. But if we build through our own knowledge and our own experience the idea of what ESP can be in its simplest form, then okay, it may be okay to use these ships as forms of travel.
But I don't think we're equipped at the moment to interfere. We don't know enough about it. Or perhaps certain areas of government know more about it. But certainly if they do, they're keeping quiet about it. But I don't think we can directly interfere, can we?
This is what ufology has become. Because in the 30s we excelled at propelled aircraft. And then after that it was the jets. And then after 60 years we're still anywhere near anything else. So this natural progression that we're supposed to be going along has been interfered with by powers that be for their own uses. And I think this is why we're all kept in the dark and we're dumbed down and we're all blamed for a lot of things.
That's another argument entirely.
But this is why it happens to us.
Why?
Because it keeps us in the dark. Because if you don't know about something, you'll never...
I mean, because there are only sections of people who see UFOs, but it could be... And Jenny Randalls, of course, who was the British investigator, said it's a psychic phenomena, so therefore there's only certain people who are tuned on a wavelength, brain essence frequency to see UFOs. So if everybody was seeing UFOs, there would be no mystery, which is not to say they would still remain, they would be transparent in their function, but that there would not be the controversy about them. It's this thing of when only a few people are privy to to look at something or to know about something that you get the controversy about it.
Oh yeah, but people have a defence system against things like this. You know, if you say to them, "Oh, they've invented a form of free energy that can propel us all around the solar system."
But you see, in an electric universe, Joe, we're looking at pure energy anyway. This is...
Well, yeah, but I'm just thinking about the way people can conceive what UFOs actually are.
Yes, I know. That's why I'm saying I think that you know, in the old days, I know that everybody lecturing on them or talking about them referred to them as if they were a craft, as if they were a piece of magnificent engineering or construction, a craft that must be made out of something, some kind of metal or something. Even if it was a very superior substance, it had to be made out of something. But I never heard of anybody talk about them as if they were in themselves a unit or an entity of sentient intelligence. And this is why I was interested in what this guy had to say on YouTube a few weeks ago, and I'm sure he'd be very well known, and people will be saying, "Oh, it's such a body that she's talking about." But I think this is a revolutionary breakthrough in the thinking in the mainstream thinking towards ufology, is that whatever those things are, and there are many of them in different forms that are spotted all over, that they are in fact something that is it's an accretion of intelligence and into physical substance, if there is such a thing, rather than a piece of engineered structure. Do you see what I mean?
I think so.
And it gives the whole thing and the whole subject another dimension, if that's the case.
Well, that's what we're talking about. The whole thing is multidimensional.
It is,
it's
yeah.
It's beyond purely physical.
Yes, it is.
When the true acknowledgement of understanding ufology, you have to understand yourself.
Yeah.
You go inwards to go outwards.
Yeah, exactly. What about this theory of them, which is a fairly new topic, of them being from the centre of the Earth or something? I mean, that was suggested a long time ago.
Well, the idea of the centre of the Earth is just another species that was on this planet that didn't want anything to do with what we were doing.
Right.
Which is like all the wars, all the disease, the pollutions and debts, everything is destroyed.
So there's an inner Earth within an outer Earth.
Well, all spheres are hollow.
Yeah, there's always an inner principle to everything, so it follows.
The sun itself is hollow. It's driven by electromagnetic forces. Gravity does take place, but only when there's electromagnetism in place. Everyone's got this idea that gravity is the main force of the universe, but plasma has been proved to hold the key to gravity. If there's no plasma going on, there's no electromagnetic fields, gravity doesn't exist. So the idea of the inner Earth or the hollow Earth, that's not really into ufology. It's more of another species that's taking itself away from what we actually do, because what we actually do is very...
Oh yeah, but people have claimed to see these craft coming out of certain portals or...
It's ESP. It's the manifestation from electromagnetic to the physical. That's what ESP is. It's the transformation, like you were saying, the morphing. You have to go into an electromagnetic state. So if you were to be in an object, like a UFO, you have to surround the ship in the same way the Earth is surrounded by a magnetic field, which protects the Earth and not entombs it, but surrounds it so it can fly.
Encrypts it almost.
Well, it surrounds it and protects it like a coat when someone goes out. It's so it can travel through space without and still grow and be protected by or protected from.
I mean, I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen one. But I know people who have, people I would, give credit to and trust that have seen them. And too many people, for my liking, have noticed things like that and seen things like that for various walks of life, all ages, from and all over, for the whole thing to be not credible. So to me, it must be very credible, and it's worth greater thought and greater greater observation on, if you're lucky enough to be able to observe,
Well,
a greater intention of study, perhaps.
it's the simple things that we should already know. It's meditation, and if you can meditate and try and communicate on the electromagnetic level, there are people who do this naturally.
Yes, I know.
And these are the people who, when we do this, and the more people that do this, this is how we get the planet to awaken for the better of itself. So that if everyone learned how to meditate and understand who they were and not be afraid, not live in fear, then the one of the pure heart can summon. And this is what happens already. This is being pushed and promoted by somebody called Dr. Stephen Gray.
Oh yeah, Dr. Stephen Gray is very well known. It wasn't he who I saw talking about ufology, but certainly it's something that he does cover.
Yes, he's pushing it around the world and letting everybody know that this is how it's done.
Okay. Okay.
And he does stress that for us to overcome this current world we live in, this paradigm we live in, that we have to move forward with our minds.
We do. That's the only way. Is that personal awareness is the only way, because you put that together and it's massive. It's massive.
Yeah.
That awareness grows and it's massive. Okay, so to conclude, we have to sum up by saying that certainly in an electric universe, a sentient being as a UFO is more than probable. Thank you. Join us next time on our next pod.